Good morning, everyone. Welcome and thank you for your interest in Showbiz Timecards and Media Services. This is a demo of Showbiz Crew Cards. I will also go into a demo showing you how to get same-day payroll edits using Showbiz Crew Cards. And also I will show you towards the very end how to use Showbiz sag-aftra cards. Let me introduce myself. My name is Roger. I am one of the developers of Showbiz Timecards, and it's been an experience with myself and another gentleman named Otter Huntley to service your needs for more than about 10 years now, and see Showbiz Timecards go from a very small or obscure used program to a program that is now used by every single studio in the industry now. And in fact, some of the studios even require you to use the program. Of course, my attitude and my team's attitude is we don't want to force you to use anything. We want to persuade you. And that's what I'm here for today. I want to persuade you and show you how Showbiz Timecards can be very helpful to you when you're doing with your payroll needs. First of all, let me introduce you to our company. We are part of Media Services, the Media Services family. And we are a payroll of record, of course, so we can service your needs there. But let me show you our website, so it'll help you a little bit. Of course, right on if you go to our website, which is media-services.com, you can come here about your payroll needs, or you can even request a quote. But we have other specialty markets that we're dealing with, so feel free to click on any one of those. Accounting, we have an accounting division. In fact, I worked with that accounting division for several years. They're fantastic. If you need accounting for your particular show, feel free to contact us about that. Residuals, we have fantastic residuals. If you're interested in our residuals, of course, you can request a quote. Our technology, which I'll come back to in just a moment. Healthcare, ACA has become very complicated in the last few years. We are happy to help you with any of your ACA needs. Incentives has become also very important too. A lot of states and or cities will offer incentives. Feel free to actually take a look at that as well. And then there's, at the very end, there's a question area, which, again, you can be a payroll customer or not. We, of course, prefer when you are. But, yeah, we can help you with any of your needs by going in here. And you can even type in questions and find stuff on our website if you're unsure where to look. So going back to the technology, if you look in technology, you'll see the various technology that we offer. Showbiz Software is obviously where we offer our software. Our support team, which you can go to. In fact, I'll go to that right now. Our support team is available here. You can even contact us after hours if you need to, but feel free to call those. In fact, you can call those numbers even now if you need to. And there's an email address as well. Another thing that's really great about our website is that we have video tutorials about our various products, so feel free to watch those as well. In fact, the webinar I'm doing today will be recorded. And if you actually go back to technology and webinar and events, you can actually see when the webinars are available. In fact, we do one every month, usually the second Tuesday. This is an introductory class. We do an introductory class usually every 2 months for 2 months, and then the third month we do an advanced course. So yeah, if you're interested in the advanced course after this, of course, if you scroll down just a little further on the page, you will see there's an advanced course, and these are previously recorded webinars. In fact, it was my webinar from last month. You feel free to watch that. And then you can jot down any questions and then go back to that previous page and you can call us and ask any questions you may have. In fact, do that today. As I'm going along, you can jot down questions, but today is kind of cool because you do have the ability to go in there and ask a question. If you look at your webinar, you can actually look, there's a section called questions. What we're doing is, for the benefit of everybody, we're actually putting you in what's called listen-only mode. That prevents a little bit of riffraff in the background. What will happen is it's better for the presentation overall. You can go ahead and type in any question you like, and I will take breaks and read those questions aloud so that everybody can hear very clearly and then answer those questions all the way. Now, some questions I won't be able to get to during the presentation because we only have so much time, but that's okay. That's when you go back to that, again, if you go back to our website and go back to our support page, you can actually go to that page and contact us right on top there. All right? So feel free to use those and our resources to help you out. All right, so let me go ahead and get started. So first of all, let me bring up the Showbiz Crew Cards program. Now, Showbiz Crew Cards you can download and run right now. In fact, a couple of you called me this morning and wanted to install the program to take a look at it before you start. And you're very welcome to do that. Back on our website, if you go back to our website, you go back to Technology, Showbiz Software, and you go to the Film and TV Crew Cards or any one of the other products that we offer. Scroll down just a little bit. You'll see this is information about how to purchase it. And if you are a media services payroll customer, you get the programs for free. As many as you need, both sag-aftra and the crew cards, you can get them for free as long as you're doing payroll with us. That is a huge advantage for a lot of people as you think about it, at several $1,000s potentially of software that you'll be giving away for free. So on the very top here, Windows or Mac, just go ahead and click that. And always take a look here if there's any information. For example, currently we do have the program working on Sierra. Just give us a call and we can help you with Sierra because there's something a little bit different about Sierra, but it works fine once we actually take care of it with you. But yeah, nevertheless, take a look here and you can always look at the requirements, the benefits and stuff like that to spotlight what we're doing. Of course, a lot of it we're going to be doing right now as we go over this. And of course, a little further down is the tutorials and the support pages as well. So you can click on those later. So I'd say bookmark this page. This is a good place to bookmark. So once you've downloaded the programs, install the program, and then what you'll do is you'll just basically go and open up the program, and it looks like this. All right? You will see that it's giving you a couple of options, and I'll go over those. Also take a look at this little web page here, because sometimes we offer various things going on. There may be a deal or some kind of a special, or there may be, in fact, we at one point even had somebody was looking for payroll accountants in New York. We haven't put even an ad in here to be able to help a customer of ours that was looking for payroll accountants. So feel free to always take a look at this and see if there's important information for you to look at. So we have, when you first open the program, it's going to say union, non-union, wider, and then hot costs. Hot costs I do in the advanced webinar, but I will explain essentially what the hot cost reporter is it's a way of culminating all of your reporting into every daily hot cost into a report. So feel free to watch that advanced webinar and you can understand better what we're talking about. So today we're actually going into the introductory, which I will show you these other portions. So first, non-union, if you're doing a non-union show, you're going to click there. All right? Now let me show you, you can actually go to the far left corner and change the layout. So if you accidentally chose the wrong one, that's okay. You can choose a different one. Here is the wide. Wide essentially is, it's a union, although it can be used for non-union if you want to. It is a wider episode production field. It's mostly used for a lot of animation studios. We have several animation studios that have joined us over the last few years, and they have a much larger production episode field. And now we can accommodate you. Now, if you're in a feature or a television show that perhaps is using something like this, that's fine. You can do that too. The other one is just union view. And I'll go over a little bit later the differences. I'm going to go back to non-union because we're going to start with the most simple way of entering time cards first. So the basics of Showbiz time cards are pretty much, there is a menu. You can click on the menu to see various things. Most of what you will deal with, except for the scripts menu, which we do have, the scripts menu does have some advanced scripts that will actually run the program. I'll go into those a bit later. Most of what you'll need, though, is right on this top banner right up here. And most of it will be right in this corner over here. So worksheet, this is where you actually enter a time card. You actually take a paper time card, or if you're dealing electronically, maybe some source that you're actually entering the information in, because Showbiz time cards essentially is a way of grossing out the time cards. It's calculating the time card so you don't have to sit there and break it all out manually. That's essentially what Showbiz time cards is. It's a time card calculator on steroids. So worksheet list is every time card you've entered in the system. And here's the nice thing about this. Every one of these pieces of information can be searched on, which I'll go into it a little bit later, but you can find the information. Next to that is card list. Now people say, what's the difference between card list and worksheet list? Well, there's a lot of information on this original time card, right? So what we've done is we've made one's called the worksheet list, which essentially has certain pieces of information that you can find and use to get your time cards. This other one's called card list. Instead of making you scroll left to right to find every piece of information, you'll find that the card list has several things that are a little bit different. Some customers said, well, you know, I'd rather search by work state, or I'd rather search by department, or maybe Social Security number if you're using that. You can use that one instead of worksheet list. Whereas worksheet list has the accounting information. In other words, your COA or your chart of accounts or your accounting structure. That is in here, whereas that is not in the other. So you can go back and forth between the two. It's your choice. I have a lot of people say that they want to choose one compared to another, depending upon when they want to find various information about the time cards. The very top is actually a time card. And you can actually go and choose the time card that's best for you. In fact, we have the ones on the bottom are generally newer time cards. They're for the newer functions of the program. And they're also because customers have requested some particular thing that they would like to see in a time card to be printed out. Maybe a producer wanted something, or maybe one of the studios wanted to see something. So choose what you want. The ones on the top are some of the originals. They're more designed for non-union. So if, for example, you're looking for new things like this new splitter I'll be explaining today, you might want to choose number 17 because that does have the splitter information. And by the way, by default, the Social Security number is showing only the last 4 digits. That's by default because that's the way most people would prefer it be done. There was a law that came out in 2008 about this that basically says we should not be printing the full social on a time card, so we do that automatically. If you do for some reason want to change that, it's your choice. Just make sure you click in there as well. Now, to go back, please go back to worksheet, and let's break this down so you understand a little bit better. So first of all, this very top information is information about the person, their name, their Social Security. In fact, here's a nice thing about Social Security is you can type in anything you would like. You can go in here and type in anything. In fact, let me go and make a brand new time card for you so you can see this. So let's go ahead. You can be in cap locks or no cap locks. It's your choice. Social Security number. Again, this is what's really nice about the Social Security number. 544, whatever, right? You can put a dash in if you want to. You put the dashes in, or if you want to, if you prefer to do this, watch this. There you go. See how it automatically put the dashes in for me? That is a choice you can do. It will not double dash if you type in dash. Showed you. You could just put in the last 4 digits if you wanted to. That's fine too. So you could just do, 6, 7, 8, 9. There we go. That's fine too. It's whatever is best for you. All right. Start date. Now there's a bunch of fields in the program that are in there to help people. You do not have to use them though, and this is one of them. In fact, there's a lot of checks in the program that when you actually do the calculation, it will tell you if you're missing something. It'll say, oh, you know what? You are missing actually a piece of the information. Put that piece of information in and it will calculate. So first of all, what you'll do is you'll go in and say, for example, I wanted it to be this, this start date would be the 10th, right? Now, why do I do that? It's actually helpful not only for me, but for maybe people who are taking care of the time cards, maybe who's processing your time cards, to look for start paperwork. Obviously, if I had started several weeks ago, I wouldn't need to look for that particular paperwork. So it's a good way for myself to know to look for start paperwork or not. Direct deposit, if you're doing direct deposits, you can flag that. If you're not doing direct deposits, leave it alone. Again, it's one of those fields that is optional. Now, there are certain fields like, for example, department and position. They are blank by default, okay? We used to actually fill these in, but a lot of people said, well, do you want cap locks? Do you not want cap locks? Do you want, for example, construction to be actually smaller? Maybe it's, just, CONST. That's fine too. Fill it out once, and once you've filled it out, it's available on everybody else's time cards from that point forward. So, and there's another thing that's nice about this too. If you want to click into a particular field, watch this. If I'm in there, and I type in there's production. Okay, so I can either choose it, or I can actually just hit enter if I'm immediately there. So let's check in here, and oh, I don't have producer, So that's okay. What I'll do is I'll type that in. Just click into it again, and there we go. You have producer. The unions are all in the system here. You can choose non-union, of course, if you're non-union, which this is. But you can also go to the very, very bottom, and you can edit, and you can add a particular guild if you want to. So if you want to, and this is another field, if you see if it's a drop-down like this and you want to add it, maybe you want to go and add something, and you just click in, if you want to do it alphabetically, click in here, and just type in whatever you want. Okay, type in the new guild that you want to deal with. And then click OK. And then now when I click into that field, now it's available on every time card. So that's the differences. One, you can actually edit the menu. The other one, this is automatically adding it every time you go in. Okay? So loan out, Fed IDs, if you are dealing with those people, go ahead and put that on top, put that up there. Otherwise, leave that blank. Now, picture project, city, state, production company, there's a lot of things that we can actually automatically do for you. Let me see if I have one. Here's a paste job. Perfect. Here we go. So we actually have one here. This is from a previous time card we made. We filled out the information on the top here. It even has an old week ending, if you can see as well. So that's fine. So if you want to change it, I'll show you. Watch this. So all this information is basically come from a previous copy job. So all I would need to do is now I would say this week ending now, we want to change it because obviously it's a little old. So we're going to come in here and we're going to say it's 4/15, which we should have proper week ending. See how it automatically does the year for us? Also notice, too, that the dates are populated appropriately based on the week ending. Occasionally, somebody will put a wrong week ending by accident. That's okay. Or maybe you're intending to do that. That's fine. So say, for example, I did it 14 instead. See how the dates are now Saturday through Friday? Because you thought, well, that's my week ending. No, we want to do the payroll week ending because there's the potential of working a 6th day on a Saturday, right? So we'll do a proper week ending. Our week ending will be Saturday, so we're Sunday through Saturday. However, some of our customers will do unusual weeks. They'll start on a different date and they'll end on a different date, and that's okay. Your payroll company will be able to accommodate this. So, for example, you wanted to go Tuesday to the following, Wednesday to the following Tuesday, right? Because that's the way your production is being structured. That's fine. If that's what you've set up, do that and just make sure you choose the appropriate week ending, and the program will automatically know, based on your week ending, which days are truly 6th and 7th days in your calendar week. All right, so that's there. All right, so off to the side here is a little thing called Notes on Time Card, Notes from the Web, and Notes to Self. These notes on the time card, whatever I type in here, whatever I type in, it will actually go on the time card that you're going to print. So literally it comes in, here's the information on that particular time card. Notes from the web, this is actually coming from our online time card system, which I'll go into a little bit later. But yes, the information will populate and come in here. Notes to self, these are notes that you actually type yourself. Perhaps you want to remind yourself of a particular item, put that note for yourself, and nobody will see it other than just you. All right? Now, down below that, down below this information here is something called the ACA. You can choose it or not, depending on, I have some customers that say, well, my payroll company takes care of this. That's fine. But if you would like to use it, it is very helpful. You can say they're part-time, full-time, variable hours, seasonal employment. Put the information that's appropriate. Put the email address in there if you're tracking that. Termination date, that's actually helpful to put that termination date if you're dealing with that person, then now they're done because maybe a benefit will end. Again, mostly this is for non-union, just so you know, but again, it's for particular states' ACA rules. And then, of course, certain states actually have sick leave start and the sick leave end, so you can track that as well. And then you can help us track it as well if you're doing payroll with us. You can put that information in, and we'll actually make sure to put that in the employee's record so that they get appropriate payments and or possible sick leave options. All right, down below that, this is where I actually started getting into the nitty-gritty of the program now. All right, so we need to choose. I'm going to do something simple because I'm a producer, right? I'm going to say I'm a weekly. Of course, most producers are weekly. I'm going to give myself 5,000 because, hey, I'm the producer. So 5,000. Now, here's the nice thing about this is what we call our COA, chart of accounts, episode structure, whatever you want to call it. It's basically the accounts that were originally budgeted for this particular individual. Now, because you're actualizing, you actually want to put those same accounts in so that you can find out what your true variance is. Did you spend less, or did you spend more, or did you spend right on the penny of what you budgeted? So obviously, you put this information in, and the payroll company will help you with this. So here's a little trick. If you don't want to use the exact structure that's here, click on anywhere in this button here. It'll actually tell you, what would you like to do? I want to go to the forms. Now, you can change any one of these to a different structure. So if you say, for example, you didn't want to do prod epi, you just wanted to say production, or you wanted to say episode, you could do that instead. You know, some people are saying, well, you know, I wanted to use a detail, my 4-digit detail or count, but I don't use a sub. I want to use the set over there, and I want to have 2 free fields. You're certainly welcome to do that. Just go ahead and change whatever you want. So, for example, if I come in here, I could type in set, and then just type in free 1 and free 2. Okay? So that's a very simple way of doing it. You can change it to whatever you want. Always, though, this is one important thing. If you are a Media Services payroll customer, please contact us, because I want to make sure that that your accounting structure is matching exactly what you're using for using Media Web, right? So I want to make sure that it's matching up so that when you actually get your payroll files and we're uploading this information into our payroll system, it's all matching. All right? So yes, you can change that as well, and let's go right back. So now I can type in whatever I want. I can leave the location blank if I don't want it. Again, if you're a feature, you may just want to blank that out. It's up to you. But yeah, you can put whatever you want in here. You know, 101, if you're doing episodic, detail, put in your 4-digit detail. Sub account, if you're doing sub accounts. If you're not, just leave it blank. Set account, if maybe you're breaking things by sets. Or free field. Free field, of course, can be used for lots of things, including tax incentives. So maybe you want to say it's an LA tax incentive, and you type that information in there. Now, obviously, this is a flat, so I don't need information about hourly. Another thing I don't need is I don't need anything about overtimes or anything like that. So watch. What I'm going to do now is just do something very simple. I'm going to click on one of the shortcut buttons. It's called Worked. This one is automatically Monday through Friday, which is the standard workday. This is one of many shortcut buttons we have in the program to help you, because the idea is to make your payroll quick and fast and get it done. So what this does is it automatically chooses the standard work days of Monday through Friday. Click on Magic Pay, and you're done. Okay? Now, for a flat person who's a weekly person, there are a few options. Let me go over those. So first of all, say, for example, somebody worked more than the 5 days. They worked a 6th day. And by the way, if you click in here, there's all kinds of options under this flat, mostly for flat people, but there are union designations for hourly, so that there's a guarantees. So take a look through here and see what various things that we have. We have all kinds of different options for you, so choose what those options are. We keep adding more and more, in fact, as you need. People have been asking for various things like half days, like a half of a 10-hour day would be 11-hour day, 5.5. Travel day, 14-hour day, 7, or maybe it's just a 7-hour travel day. Some people have been asking for half or full days, idle days, stuff like that. We've been putting them in. These are mostly for unions, so yeah, choose what's most appropriate for you. But again, there's hourly and flat information here. So I'm going to choose work, and see, now I've worked 6 days. I have a few options on 6 days. Now, am I just getting a prorated rate? Well, yes, that's what I'll say. I'm getting a prorated rate. And now, whoops, I did see this was automatically turned on. That's okay. This little function is called 6th and 7th day. Let me turn that back off again just so you can see the difference. This, I want to prorate. I just want to say it's another $1,000 a day. See how it added the other $1,000? However, say, for example, no, even though as a producer, I'm working 6 days, my rate is based on a 6, or you can even choose 6 and 7 too, by the way. So, example, if in other words, I work, no matter how many days I work, I get paid the same amount of money. This is for a 6, the other one's for a 6 and a 7. So I'm just saying no for 6, I'm still getting paid $5,000. It doesn't prorate instead. See the difference? Essentially what that's doing is it's prorating based upon what is my contract. My contract is for 6 days. Now, be careful of one thing, though. If you truly are not working the 6th day, it will prorate oppositely, and it will also take a day out. So, in other words, if you're getting some kind of guarantee and it's the 6th, then just put them as worked, or one of the other designations. We do have other ones, like idle days and stuff like that would pay out. Okay, and then once you're done, you just hit Magic Pay, and it updates it. Notice how it also updates the dates in the program as well. Okay, it's another nice little thing that the program does. It'll automatically date it for you. All right, so a couple more options. Say, for example, I do get paid for a 6th day, and you can automatically turn this on. It is on by default for most people. But yeah, what it'll do is it'll automatically assume this is a 6th day. Now, can I manually do it? Of course. But if I have it on automatically, it'll do it for me. Now it's paying, like I showed you before, it's now paying whatever that person's rate is times a multiplier, and it puts that in. Okay, so actually, now it's a little funky now because it's based on a 6th day. So let's change that out again. So let's change it so it's a little more clean, a little more understandable. There we go, 5 plus 15. See, because it was dividing it differently instead of, it was a different mathematical equation. So always take a look at that in the program just to make sure that you're getting the bottom line results that you want. And again, see how when I just went and I changed it, I went and hit Magic Pay again. You can keep hitting Magic Pay until you get the time card exactly right. So don't feel bad about clicking that button. Maybe you missed something. Go back and change it. Hit Magic Pay again. All right. So now this is a 6th day. Now say, for example, I want to do something different. Maybe, for example, this person really didn't work this day. Actually, they did. Let's say they did. But they didn't work on Monday, but they did work from a previous week. And this is truly a 6th day from a previous week. So I should be getting a 6th day from the previous week, carrying over into this week. I had 1 day off, but I have 5 continuous days, so I wouldn't get, the 6th day at the end of the week, but I'm going to get it at the beginning. Not too uncommon. We have customers that call us about this and say, how do you do it? Just choose that there, hit Magic Pay, and now it's appropriately still paying the correct amount of money, but what it's doing is now it's throwing it to a 6th day. So that's how you deal with a simple, flat weekly. Now, what's the difference between that and an hour and a daily? Well, daily you might want to switch the rate up. You don't want to actually pay the $5,000. We'll say that my daily rate is $1,000 normally, but I'm getting a bump, and let me show you why this is something new that we have. It's called the splitter. Okay. In this case, I'm not going to use an episode. I want that 6th day to split into a separate episode. Fair enough. So all I need to do is type in here, and I can type whatever I want. This splitter field is a description field. 6th day. You can go in there and type in re-rate. You can type in special deal, per contract, or an episode if you want to as well. You have many choices here what you want to do. So I'm going to type in 6th day. You can make it simple just to say 6th if you want to, 6D. It's your choice. Whatever you want to put in there, the idea is you want to make it clear to whoever is processing the payroll, as well as maybe somebody who's approving the payroll, why you did what you did in the time card. So, and this is a simple thing. I just like to drag and drop because dragging and dropping is much easier because I just dragged and dropped it right in that field, and now the program will override and use this amount. But see, what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to say my rate. I get a bump in my rate for this particular day if I want to. Or again, I can leave it back to the 1,000 because I've already got one thing. I have that 6th day at time and a half, right? So that's fine. So let's do it both ways. So we'll leave it that way. We'll go ahead and click the button and see what it does. It splits it out. It's great if you need to split out any day. Say, for example, I didn't want to call it a 6th day, so we'll clear all this. We'll go back to the standard work week. But say, for example, I wanted to do a separate episode. See how my default episode is 107? I can say this is 108. I just have to change, of course, if you see how here it's different here. You should make sure you match up based upon your episodes. And again, you can do more description if you want to. You can literally put in, some people will say, I just want to say it's episode 8, and this one is episode 7. That is fine. It is not literally, you don't have to put the same as your episode. This is what we previously used to do. People would put dashes or stars, and people wouldn't understand what that meant. Now I can literally put as much or as little description in the splitter field, the reason why I'm splitting. So in this case, I'm going to say it's episode 8, and episode 8 is this particular day. So now when I go and click here, but I'm also going to say, you know what? I'm also getting a bump in my rate. Fair enough. I can even change my set code. If I'm using a set code, I'll say it's 11. And you know what? We're moving to San Francisco, so I want to change that too. Fair enough. Change all that. There you go. It instantly changed what I just told it to, now splitting out to a different episode. So does that make sense? That's the difference between a daily and a weekly. Essentially, is your main reason you're just splitting up off to a daily rate is you want to make it a little bit different. You want to make a different rate. You can still do the splitting in the standard weekly, by the way. It'll still work. But the main reason you want to change it is because you want to change your episode coding or your chart of accounts and or the rate, and then split it out. So that hopefully that makes a little more sense. All right, so let me go see if there's any questions right now. Any questions at all? All right, so how do you make the screen size be target? Okay, that's a good one. People are asking about how, they wanted to know how to make the screen size larger or smaller. That's actually a great question. There is actually a function in the program that actually does this. Now, by default, it could be a little small on your screen, and that's okay. What you'll do is on the very bottom corner, there is they look like little mountains. One's a large mountain, one's a small mountain. Obviously, small mountain makes things smaller. Large mountain makes things larger. Now, most of the time, we will default to a larger screen like this, okay? Because most people do have wide screens, but you may want to make it smaller if you want it to have a little bit smaller. Some people prefer to see more on the screen too. I myself, I like to see a bit larger because I don't mind scrolling down a little bit, but that's how you make it larger and smaller. Now, if you're a Windows user, there is an option under, let's see, it's under Edit Preferences, and you can go in there and you can literally say, you know, I want to enlarge the window contents to improve readability. Now, mind you, mine's already large, so I don't need to do that. But if you want to make it larger, if you have a small screen and you want to make it larger, feel free to click on that. By the way, also, sometimes people say, you know, I got the name in there somehow strange. It's because when you first installed it, it auto-suggested based upon your user login, and it may be a completely different name. If you want to change your name, change it right there and click OK. And from now on, every time card that you edit and change will now show that it was your name instead. So there's two things that are important there. All right, so that's how you do it. Essentially 2 ways. This is the simple way once you start it. The other way is more permanent. When you go to Edit Preferences, it'll do it that way every time. So it's your choice, which you prefer. Some people prefer starting it small and then making it larger, and then going back and forth by clicking the 2 buttons. By the way, you can also click on, once you set aside a certain size, if you click on the far left, it'll actually go between the last 2 views you had to. So it's another little handy thing as well. All right, since there's no more questions at the moment, let me move a little forward here. Let's switch over to an hourly person to see how they're different. So obviously, I wouldn't want any kind of hours, so I'm going to clear those hours out. But I may want to keep the episode information. In fact, let me see if I've got another time card that's a little bit better for this. Let's see here. I will go to, I think I had one here. Here we go, Mr. Paul Arnold. Okay, so now you can see this is how this is filled out. Now, what's different about this is actually I've gone and I've saved there an hourly. All the rest of the information is the same, but see how you can even do the splitter. I put an EPI 101 and split those out. Again, you can be as descriptive as you want in the splitter or not. This is something you couldn't do in the previous version because it would usually mess with the account structure. This is literally specifically for your account structure. This is the reason why you're doing it, all right? Now, what's different? Hourly rate, obviously I'm going to put my hourly rate in there, and I can actually even copy things down. I don't know if you noticed this. If you click these buttons here, it'll automatically copy down the information from the previous one above it. It will leave the episode the same. See how of course, it's already filled out, but it'll copy it down. You just fill out the splitter and the episode. Again, those are reasons why you don't have to actually even put an episode in there if you don't want to. If you're a feature, you can leave it blank. Maybe you're splitting by location. You may want to do 01, 02, 03, and 04. Again, this is specifically for splitting, which I'm going to go to in just a moment. But for hourly, what else is different about hourly? You enter their hours. So it's in military time, We do that because all the payroll companies deal with that. That's the best way to deal with it. And as a payroll person yourself, you will know your military time. If some of you are new to doing military time and you're not sure, feel free to email me and I can give you a little cheat sheet that actually tells you exactly. It's every 6 minutes, but it can. You can find a lot of stuff on the website, on websites as well. If you type in military time, it will show you in tenths because that's every 6 minutes. Find that, and you can find that as well on the web. But if you email me, and it's on my website, but it's just Roger, R-O-G-E-R, at media-services.com. I can give you a little cheat sheet that will actually help you if you're not sure how to do that yet. All right, so we put in the military times. See, we put in the various times in wrap. And by the way, if you are wrapping later in the day, do the old-fashioned payroll way, which would be 23, 24, 25. The reason why we do that is because it's a much smarter way of doing it. Look what the program does. It says, oh, okay, 20. This is the way we used to do payroll back in the day. We were doing it all by 10 key, right? You say 25 minus 8 is 17 hours, and you deduct the lunch, 16 hours. So that's a better way of doing it. Just continue the day. And that's the way the military does it as well. So if you want to take it back, just take it back to 21, and there you go. All right, so you want to enter that, and then this little grid will fill out, but the grid will only fill out until you choose an overtime schedule. So I'm in the state of California, so I'm going to choose the state of California. Say, for example, I'm in a non-union federal 40 states. Ironically, there happens to be 40 Fed 40 states out there. That is the standard. That's the minimum standard that you have to pay them a certain amount of overtime. And essentially, all that really is what happens is if they work 40 continuous hours in a week, they actually get overtime after the 40th hour, and they continue to get that for the rest of the week. There are other states that get, for example, like 8. They get 8, and this says they get 8 hours of straight time, and then everything the rest of the day would be a time and a half. Of course, you're not seeing it. I'll take that back up to 2,500. You'll see how that's still a time and a half. There are some that are 10. There's some that are 12. They're kind of more rare. There's only a couple states that do that, and there's a couple of odd ones here, but every state is represented here. Now, for example, if you want to see what the OT laws are, click on this, and this is actually a government website, and you can actually go and find out what is California. Click on that. California is what I told you about, 8 hours of straight time, double time after 12. In between that is time and a half. Colorado is at 1240, so that's one of those 1240s. So look at the various different facets of what they're being paid. If it doesn't specify, then it is a Fed 40 state by default, okay? Another thing to look at, too, is what is their minimum wage rate for the state. That's actually helpful, too, as well, when you're sometimes dealing with people who are maybe like PAs and stuff like that. You want to at least comply with the wage and hour law of that state. All right, so going back to the crew cards program. So I'm going to go back to California states and see what happens. It automatically knows. Once you've chosen your appropriate overtime schedule, it'll automatically pay out. In this case, it did. This is a long day. It was a 16-hour day, 8 hours of straight time, 4 hours of time and a half, and 4 hours at double because they worked more than 12 hours in a day. So the program automatically knows when you choose your overtime, it will do this grid and fill it out for you. Okay. Another reason why people really like it is it just makes it payroll much more quick and much faster. All right. So scrolling down a little bit further here, we do have a few things that are new. If you are non-union California does require you to pay a meal penalty if you violate 6 hours without giving them some food, or actually technically it's not just food, it's actually giving them a physical break. You actually have to give them a physical break before the 6th hour. If you don't, then you have to pay a meal penalty. And the state of California is really simple. We just say it's non-union. Now, could you do this in other states? Yes, you could. You just click on pay meals, and what it does is it pays the person's hourly rate. Okay? So what it does is it literally goes in and pays their hourly rate for that person. Now, I'll show you in union in a few moments how that's different. There's non-union. Union is different than union. Union actually has a particular MPV scale. All right? And MPVs are just meal penalty violations. Okay? Just so you know. All right, so that's done there. A little further down, there's a section here. This is all about allowances. You can put allowances. You can put a box. You can put a car. You can fill out your own allowance if you want to. So, for example, maybe I want to put a cell phone allowance in here. I'll put a cell phone allowance. Now, here's something that's important to note about the allowances. Whatever I type here will override the labor account above it. So, for example, some people have asked me, hey, how do I put a box or a cell or a car into an amort episode? That's how you do it. Go ahead and put that episode in there, and it will overwrite. You don't have to fill out everything up above because that's specifically for splitting. This is an override of what you actually want to fill out. So, yes, I have a different labor. I have a different detail account from my cell, and I don't worry about the free because I'm not worried about that at all. You just fill it out, and then once you're done, you just need to make sure how much are they being paid per day. So I'll say they get $10 a day for a cell, and if you do want to do a weekly amount, you can do that. Just make sure you put in the maximum. Say, for example, they cap. They get a 40, instead of getting $10 a day, which this person worked 5 days, right? We'll show you that. If I hit Magic Pay, scroll down a bit. And you can use the page down buttons too, or you can scroll down. There's page up and page down. You can use your keyboard or your arrows too. It's your choice. But see, now what happens, I do have a cell. And see how it's splitting out too. Another nice little thing. I've already got this splitting out for you. So it's automatically splitting out the costs per day. If you don't want that, just put in the maximum weekly amount and lock it at a weekly rate. Okay? Now, there's a couple of other options too in here. There's this other thing about taxable, non-taxable. You can choose those. By default, a lot of stuff is non-taxable. If you want it to be taxable, check the box. Another thing that we have is the do not pay. The do not pay actually is very handy. For example, maybe this person does not get their cell phone allowance on a non-production week. In other words, they call them dark weeks, they call them pre-production weeks, post-production weeks. It's obviously a week that you're actually not shooting, though they only get their cell phone only on those weeks. So what you do, instead of wiping this information out, you use this button to suppress what is being paid. So you click on that, and then you go back to that Magic Pay job, and there you go. It is now suppressed. This actually might be a good note to yourself, or maybe even a note on the time card. Do not pay cell phone allowance on that particular week. So that's a good thing to know. All right, so again, and then what will happen, and I'll show you in a minute, how we actually duplicate time cards. That's a nice little handy feature. You would want to go there and you have your notes saying, hey, pay them. This is now production week. You would uncheck it. And then, of course, on a subsequent week, you'd click the button, and there you go. You have a new time card. Done. All right. So now that you've got all this information down and you got all this information here, there's other things. There's per diems. There's salary advances. I won't go into that in too much detail now because of the time frame that we have today to be able to demonstrate everything. But yes, you fill them out. It'll automatically carry it over. If you do per diem and per diem advance, in other words, you're washing through payroll, it'll automatically wash. It'll do the proper debit and credit for you as well. All right. So that's the basics of doing a non-union time card. Let me show you one more thing about splitting, and then I'll take a couple more questions, and then I will go into the union portion. So splitting, we talked about that a little earlier. Let me do something advanced with the splitting here. I want to actually click in here and wipe this out. Now watch. You can type these in. Essentially, see how each one of these days is set to a separate episode? Fair enough. All I need to do is just go, and I'm going to drag and drop because it's easier. I'm clicking and holding down on the left mouse button and dragging it to the bottom. The reason why I'm doing this is I want to show you how fast it is. And we'll say these 2 days are episode 104. Fair enough. So pretty much each day is split. Now, mind you, this is the non-union section. We have 4 days here. The union has 7. So you can split every day of the week. And by the way, there's also a split day. I will show you that when I do the union time cards. So, Magic Pay. And now, give it a second. And there we go. See how it's split out 1, 2, 3, and then 2 on 3 days. It split any allowances, including my cell phone. If I had any other allowances as well, they would automatically split as well. So it's very handy. This is a huge thing for a lot of people. When you have to split like crazy, it's so much easier to do when you just go right in here and click on it. Now, in fact, you know what? I'll show you split day now. It'd probably be fine to do that now. All right, so click on that. The only difference here is you're now looking at each one of the days. So take a look at Here's your weekends. We did change this recently to make it a little more clear. Weekends are over here. The standard work week is here. Now, if I do want to split something differently, I just come in here, and there's 3 ways to split. You can split by time, percent, or manually. So say, for example, I want to split by time. I wanted to say everything after a particular time in the day is going towards time and a half or double time. So I'll look at my day again. We'll scroll just a little tiny bit here. And let's see, on this day, this is Monday. Here's my Monday. I want to say everything after we came back from lunch is now going to a new episode. So I'd say everything after 15, split by time. And now, see how it automatically broke based on the time for me? Another option is by percent. Say, for example, I wanted to say it's a 50-50 split. 0.50 split by percent, now it's 50-50 split. Another way that people don't realize that's in here is you can manually do it. Say, for example, the producer says, you know what, I want 1 hour to go towards this, a second episode. Now, I haven't filled it out, mind you. I have to do that in a second. And then I want 2 hours to go towards, so there we go. I split that manually, and now it'll allocate towards the new episode. So now if I go in, I just need to tell the program, what is it? 102. And now it's now split based on that. And when I go back out of this, you'll actually see there's a notation called split. Okay? So now that notation called split is in there, now actually when I hit Magic Pay, we'll update it, and it will split appropriate. See how it changed it? Because I split in the day. So yes, you can split 4 times here. The union, you can do 7. And again, you can split 3 times within 1 day. Now, a lot of times people go, oh, no, I wish I wouldn't. I hope I would never have to do that. Now, look, that's what we make the program to help you do. Don't feel bad about splitting. Splitting is a breeze in Showbiz Timecards as long as you understand the basics of how to split. And that's what I just showed you. It's so simple. Again, if you have any questions about that, feel free to call us up and we'll be happy to, we can even connect to your computers. Just as you're looking at my computer here, if you allow myself and my team, we can connect to you and we can show you how to do this. There's all kinds of complicated splitting that we can do in the program. But it makes splitting so much more easily done and it makes it a breeze. So use those functions in the program that are really helpful. So all right, so moving on, let me actually see if there's any questions real quick. All right, so somebody's asked about for commercial producers. Now, a little bit of a warning for you. This is a film and TV program. That's why we actually label it on the outside, film and TV. Now, can you use it for commercials? If you are non-union, yes, you can alter the program enough that it's fine, that it oops, sorry, it sounds like you lost my sound for just a second there. Hopefully you can hear me again. So it says it can, so good. All right. So what will happen here is you can change this to, you know, this could be just job. This could be, instead of detail, it could be, you guys use line numbers instead. That's fine. You can do that instead. And then wipe out whatever you're not using here. But this is the important thing to note. It does not do union commercial. It was not designed for that. In fact, ironically, it was really not designed for commercial non-union, but it can do it. You can alter the program enough to be able to do it. So if you are a payroll customer of ours, feel free to give us a call and we can talk to you a little bit about this. But again, this is mostly for union and or non-union film and TV. But yes, there is a possibility of doing, with the splitter, a prep, shoot, and a wrap. If you're doing a non-union show, you could do that same thing. You could call it prep, shoot, wrap, and then split it out that way. Again, for non-union, you'd be fine. It's just I'll show you just in a moment because I'm going to switch into union because there's no more questions. Well, this is not particularly designed for a union commercial. All right. So now that those questions have been answered, let me switch over. And again, real quickly, click over there. Now I'm in the union wide. Again, this is just more of it's a larger episode, mostly for animation studios, but it's your choice. See, now I actually have more. I have 5 here, and I can click in here, and there's 2 more. So this is all 7 days I mentioned. All right? So now if I go into here, I can literally add my episode 5, and I'll do a location 5 too if I want to. Your choice. Again, these could be all 01. It's your choice. I just want to show you how the program does split out really nicely. All right, so I got all the information in there. I got my episode information. I'm going to change this. I'm going to make this episode 105. So yes, it's the same. It just gives you more options to split. Now I have 5 days of splitting instead of 4. All right? But what else is different about the union section compared to the non-union section? Well, there's a few things that are particular about unions, of course. So let's take a look. We have an opcode. Now, the opcodes generally responsibility of the payroll company, but here's the cool thing, and this is something that helps you. A lot of times, the paper time cards that you're used to getting over the years, there's an opcode field in them, right? So if the payee is going to give you the opcode and you verify that it's correct, why not put it on the time card? And the reason why, of course, is because your opcode is important because that's the appropriate pension, health, and welfare for that individual union member. If it's wrong, who gets to fix it? Well, yes, the payroll company, but who gets to fix it? You do, because you have to do a retro on the time cards to fix this. So my attitude and the attitude of Showbiz is we put this in here so that you can get it right off the bat, and then it'll be correct all the way through, and they'll get the appropriate pension, health, and welfare. So use that function. We have it in the union section. Another thing that we have in the union section is very handy is if you look down in the hours entry area, there's also a DGA field. Now DGA, you will enter hours for them because that's what DGA wants you to, but they're technically either daily flat or weekly flats. However, you will enter the hours and you will choose the various type of extended day they're on. Now, technically, because they are flat, they don't get standard overtime, so you don't need an overtime rule. However, they do get an equivalent of overtime, and that is called an extended day. It's either half their rate, full rate, or double their rate, depending on how many hours they work and how many people are actually in, and quite frankly, what are they in? Are they an AD? Are they a first AD, a second AD? Are they distant? Are they local? You know, choose what is appropriate, and it will pay appropriately based upon what that DGA person is. All right? So choose that. Something I did forget to mention to you, by the way, is about work location. Work location, if you have a different work location, you can choose a different work location from your standard one. Say, for example, you're moving Los Angeles to another workstation. There's a little noise here. All right, sorry about that. All right, so you choose your different workstation, and then there's also something called work zone. Distant, studio, report to, bus to. You may want to put those on a particular time card. All right, so again, this is mostly for union people, but it doesn't actually do any kind of programming, not yet. We'll probably put in the various things like studio and distant. But yeah, for now, just put that in. There are descriptions you can put in. In fact, you can even put a default one saying, I want studio every day. See how it becomes studio every day? It's a nice another little function for union workers. All right, so another thing is I'm not California state law. I'm actually paying somebody in a particular guild. So you can come in here and click on this and say OT. Now, this takes you to a whole list of OT schedules. Let me show you a little tip about this. Instead of scrolling all the way up and down to try to find the OT schedule you want, do this. And there's several places in the program that have this find and get function. Number one, find, everything disappears for just a moment, and then you can type in what do you want. I want 600. I could type in camera. The more you type in, the more it would narrow down what you're searching for. Hit number 2, get, and now I'm just looking at the camera specifically. I have elapsed contracts and work contracts. There's a difference between the two. So say, for example, this is the one here. Click apply, and you'll see this is a standard work contract. Of course, I want to change all my information up here to make sure it's appropriate, but for now, make sure you choose the right overtime schedule. It is a little different. It's not the same as California, but just so you know, California is the basis for a lot of, the way we pay overtime in the state of California is the basis for a lot of unions, regardless of where they are across all the states. So that is not, so just so you know, if you know the California state law, which is 8 hours of straight time, 4 hours of time and a half, and everything after that's double, you got the basis of most of your union contracts. Now, there are some changes, of course, and that is true. There is work that elapsed hours, there's 6th and 7th day, and there's some odd ones in there too. But watch this. A lot of people say, well, what is the difference between worked and elapsed? Essentially is you're not allowed to, this person here, right, they worked a 12-hour day, right? You see it's a 12-hour day. However, because we deducted lunch, they actually worked, they were at set, or they were at, at their work, at their place of work for 13 hours. So what happens is somebody who's elapsed, I'm going to change this real quick here, somebody who's elapsed does not get that, they get their, that's the best way to say it, it's the benefit. They get the benefit of having that last hour of gold. Some people refer to it as you do not take it off at the end of the day, which I think is a little confusing. I think the best description is you're not deducting the lunch from the end of their day, but you get to deduct it somewhere else, and you deduct it from the time and a half. So, see, that's why that's different. I'm deducting it from the time and a half. In other words, I'm still working a 12-hour day. I'm just not deducting the gold from the end of the day, or I get the benefit of going into gold 1 hour early because of the elapsed amount of time that I was there. The lunch is still deducted. It's deducted from the time and a half. So that's how elapsed works. Just so you know, choose the appropriate one. You're going to pay correctly, so choose the appropriate one best for you. Mostly worked are most of the TV studios. Now, mind you, some shows, some of the studios who are doing like Movie of the Weeks or shorter, short-form programs may actually be elapsed because that's considered MOW or it's considered a feature contract. Again, just make sure you choose the appropriate overtime schedule from our list and you'll be fine. Now, sometimes people actually say, what is this favorites? Favorites is, if you don't want to sit there and scroll through all these or try to find, say, for example, you find one that you're very happy with and you want to move it over. So again, we'll just go back and we'll set 600, hit get. And I like that one. I want to use it. I want to, instead of having to scroll for it, you apply it on the time card, but you copy it to your favorites. See how it copied it over to my favorites? What's nice about the favorites is it doesn't make you scroll. The irony is whatever contract you're dealing with, you're probably only dealing with maybe 5 or 6 contracts. So you don't have to scroll for all of them. Here they are in front of you. It's an easier way to get to them. And by the way, if you back up these, we can import and export them as well. That's what these little buttons on the top are for. All right? So that's what that's for. Essentially, it's just a faster way of finding. You found it once, you move it over to your favorites, and now you don't have to search every time for the various different types of overtime schedules. Right? Now, again, once you've entered this in, it's there, it's good to go. You can even see we even Magic Pay this one. But there's a difference in this. This is one thing that's important too, because I'm going to clear this out for you, just so you see what it is. It's different because we did the non-union, right? So we'll say all. Now, for non-union people, different story as compared to union people. It's a different scale, first of all, and you can also call Grace and NDB. So I'm going to switch this over. It's IATSE Studio. If you ever want to see the scale, it's right in here. If you want to change the scale because your scale is a little different, and some states are, you can do that too. And by the way, if anybody is doing East Coast, like New York meal penalties, this program will do it, and it does it wonderfully. In fact, we've had several big movies that have used it and television shows in the New York area. They love it because it is complicated. Essentially what they do is the features, it's the first 2 on the scale. TV is the first 3. And then what happens is, after that, you actually look at their rate in the day. In other words, whatever their rate is multiplied out by straight time, time and a half, or double time, and they get that as well added to the first 3 meal penalties. That's what's different about New York meal penalties. And it's wonderful. People love it. You just choose the right one, and it does it for you. So yeah, it's a great thing. I've had people who used to do Excel spreadsheets just to figure out the meal penalties for New York meal penalties. Now, we're going to do the standard IATSE Studio, so that's fine. There's 8 here. There's a little too many. But here, let's go ahead and let's just put in, I'll put in a 14.1 here and a 15.1. Now, 2 ways to deal with this. I have, I could call in, maybe I had a morning meal before call, and I could say, you know what, it's basically, it's a Lay's and meal, an NDB or an NDD, either one. It's basically, it's a non-deductible meal. What happens is it's within 2 hours of call. So say, for example, call was really at 10 o'clock, but this person had to come in early because they had to set up all their equipment, and that's fine. We did that, and we actually supplied a hot meal. So now that I've actually supplied the hot meal, I can actually now go in there and say it's within 2 hours of call, right? 10, between 8 and 10, there we go. Because technically you want to maximize the amount of time for 15 minutes. So I take, technically I'm doing 9:45 to 10 o'clock. And you'll see what the program does. It's smart. It says, oh, okay, I'm going to from 10 a.m. to 14.1. Obviously, I've not gone more than 6 hours. Done. Another way you can do is maybe you didn't have an NDB. Maybe you had a grace. We call grace on set. You come in here, you type in 12, wipes it out. PM, by the way, we also have graces of 30 and 60. By the way, if you go too far and you go over it, you will not wipe it out. It will automatically pay it. So if I went here to 14.3, oops, I guess I cleared that out, didn't I? See, maybe I could paste the hours back in. Yeah, okay. Well, I wiped that out, but that's okay. Careful when you push some of your buttons; it'll wipe it out. But here, let's type in a day. I'll even clear it out again. I'll type in. It was I think it was 8. It was 14.3 and 15.3 and 21. There we go. All right. So see now it's not allowing it to take it anymore because you went over that period of time. All right. So just be careful when you're doing that because like I actually cleared out my time cards, but you can always re-enter it again, so that's not a problem. Just look at the buttons you're pushing. All right, so now that we've got all that out of the way, let's go ahead here, and I'm just going to go fix it back. I'll say 14, 15, and 21. And by the way, there's another shortcut: copy a day, paste a day. Copied the first day, now I'm pasting the additional day. I can also copy down if I want the same thing too. It'll copy down from the first one down. It's another little handy thing. You can also copy all hours here, and you can paste them into another time card. Another handy little thing. All right, so now we've got that. We got the meal penalties. We do need to deal with some meal penalties. Or sorry, actually we don't because we actually wiped it out. Actually, there wasn't any. We took them out, didn't we? It's okay. Here, watch. I'll show you this. 14.1. If I press down, see how it's all 14.1? And I want to do 15.1. See, that's how that works, going down. All right. See how it suppresses it? If I take it out, the meal penalty's back. So I do want to pay at least one meal penalty. There it is. And then all I need to do, this is a mini calculator. Once you're happy with it, hit Magic Pay, and voila, it all brings it back. Now, of course, I've only done one episode. So again, you know how the episodes work. It's the same way. Drag it down, split it out. But again, even with meal penalties, it can be complicated. So here, I'll do it again so you can see what it looks like. 2, 3, oops. I guess I did double do that, didn't I? So episode 1. Now, can you type this in? Yes. I'm just doing this because it's a little more complex what I typed in here. Again, it's a description field. Type as little or as much as you want. There we go. 5 days. Magic Pay. Done. So there's my cell. There's my meal penalties. It's all breaking out according to what I asked it to do. Each episode, each day. And I go, again, remember I told my cell to be a different, there it is right there. It's on a different, it's my amort episode. All right, so a couple other things to note about Union is that we do have a little more things in here like vacation, the holiday. There is things that are on top here about forced calls. There's night premiums. One button night premium. If you are using night premiums, you can just click in here. You can see the night premium calcs. We actually have standard IATSE. We also have the videotape agreement and 695, 700, and 705 in the system too. So if they're off-production people, costumers, projectionists, and other things like that, you can actually go in there and put them in there, and it will calculate because they are different than the standard IATSE. So it's one button, you click it, it automatically calculates it, and it will also, if they go into double time, premium on a premium is basically the rule. It will not pay, it'll pay the better of the two premiums, which is double time. So that you won't have to pay the night premium if they're a double time. So sometimes people ask about that one. Just choose it, and it will automatically know the appropriate rule and do it for you. All right, so if I come in here and say it's an IATSE, you can actually go in there and see if it's calcing any, by the way, too. And it did, 1 hour at time and a half. Obviously, we went into double time. So it was after 8 is what it was. So fair enough. I go back, and if I hit Magic Pay again, it updates it. And again, that's the nice thing about updating with Magic Pay. Some people ask about what's the difference between Magic Pay and Magic Pay Edit. See how you're getting kind of crazy here? It's getting a lot of splits and stuff. Now, if I go in here and I hit Magic Pay, now I want to do a different way of looking at it. See how it's by episode or by episode account code? Say I want to do it by edit. In other words, I want to see everything by my, the straight time, the time and a half, and double time. That's the way. Another way of looking at it, it's lumping it together by category type. In other words, straight time, time and a half, night premiums, things like that. Okay, cell phone allowance. Now most people would prefer not to look like this, and they would prefer that they prefer to look at it this particular way. Some people prefer to look at it this way. It's your choice. The time card will fill out the way you tell it to. And that's, again, we go to time card, and we literally can split. Now, mind you, this one shows the split. If you are using the split, make sure you choose one of the new ones on the bottom that actually say split or splitter. If you do run out of split lines, you actually want to choose this 30 because now you'll see them all. In fact, if you saw, there was a brief warning there. The warning actually pops up and says, hey, right, I need more splitting in here to be able to accommodate the time card. So I'm just using this 30 lines of detail. It happens. When you have a lot of crazy splitting, you may need more lines to split. But see how Showbiz Timecard splits that out beautifully for you? All right. So enough about that for the moment. What I'm going to do is give you a quick little demonstration of something that we're doing here at Media Services. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in. I'm going to do one particular set of time cards. All right. Now, essentially, because you're users of Showbiz time cards, we understand there's nothing more frustrating than doing all this work, and then you have to send a PDF or a printed copy off to your payroll company, and then sometimes get the edit back, a couple of days later, or maybe even the next day. See, in Media Services, we actually we realize we don't want everybody to hand key this back in. Essentially, what we're going to do here is we want something that's efficient, and you're accustomed to the speed of the program and the efficiency of the program. Media Services, we decided to do that same thing to improve your payroll experience with us. So we have something in the program. You actually are going to send us these files. We'll show you in particular how to do it, but you basically go to the scripts menu, and you're going to export the time cards and encrypt them and send them over to us. We'll do that first time with you the very first time, so don't worry about that. But yeah, we'll encrypt the time cards, we'll encrypt the important information. The payroll coordinator here will import the time cards. This is an example of the time cards that we have, right? We'll come over here, we'll go to this card list, and they'll import it in. They'll make sure they have the right information in. They'll double check to make sure it's paid right. And then they'll click this little button to say Upload to Payroll Studio. It'll ask them a couple of questions along the way just to make sure that we get the appropriate information in there for you. So let's go ahead and walk you through here. So I'm just putting in, this is my show number. Everybody here, you'll get a show number for your particular show. As it's doing the various things, no, it's not biweekly. I would like to clear something out, and I'll just call this one test. Okay, click OK, and yes, I wanted to put it into our live payroll system. All right, so it'll take a couple of minutes to do this processing, but just so you know, essentially, because you work so hard at getting these time cards right and getting them correct, we don't want to retype them into our payroll system. We're importing them directly in, and that's why we developed this upload. We wanted to take advantage of the native Showbiz format to import into the system. And then you get the edits back the very same day. That's the nice thing about this. We have a three-step process. The first step essentially is they're pre-checked by Showbiz Timecards. Remember, every little button you click, it's making sure, did you forget to do something? Yes. Oh, you did? Okay, make sure to correct that, hit Magic Pay, and you're done. The second is when you give them to your payroll coordinator, they're going to check to make sure the time cards are paid correctly as well. Then, when we import them and upload them into our payroll system, it's checked again. So it's checked and rechecked to make sure that we get your payroll correct. All right. So the nice thing about this, let me see, it doesn't take too long. Let me see if I go in here. Let me go to the dashboard. Let me go log in here. Put my password in. All right. And there we go. It didn't take long at all. It took about a little over a minute, I suppose. All right. Here's the time cards. They're uploaded into the system. Let me give you an example of one of them. So let's go into the time card here. All right, and our show number is, let's see here, that was 23141. The payroll company, PPC, and the employee, let's see, Sheila Holmes, I think was one of them. There we go. And then the payroll week ending, there it is, open time card. Now, all this information came in within that minute in time, but not only did it come in just to bring in the information here. Again, you're looking live into our payroll system. I actually uploaded these sample time cards. If I go down a little further, see all these pay lines? All these pay lines that normally are hand keyed in are not hand keyed anymore. And again, they've been triple checked so that they're all correct. And now, essentially now that this is done, all we really need to do now is we can go in and we can go back here. We can make a report for you and stuff like that. So I come in here, all right, I go into, we have a customer time card report. The show name, again, was 23141, Adventures of Laura. Okay, bring that down. Payroll week ending date, let's see, I think I put it in, it was 05/15/2017. Again, 04/15/2017. All right, and then the payroll company was PPC. Bring that down. All right, so now I can run a report. And I do need to put my password in here. If anybody's familiar, you've probably seen this if you're using our online payroll support system, online reporting system. You're used to this. Okay. I have to remember there. All right, so I click on that. Now, literally, it's generating a report. And here we have a report. This is one of your standard edits that you get. And this is why we do this. It's not only is it, again, it's the speed and efficiency that you want, but here's the cool thing. If you give your Showbiz time cards by 10 a.m., and we already have the starts completed and in our system, we will give you an edit back the very same day. It's huge in this industry to get your payroll back in the very same day. But again, it's about speed and efficiency. We want to get this information as soon as possible, but still double checking and even triple checking within our system to make sure. Again, it's checked by Showbiz, it's checked by a person, and then it's checked by the payroll system to make sure it's accurate as possible. All right, so that's essentially that. That's essentially, again, if you get those Showbiz time cards to us by 10 a.m. in that file, and get it to your coordinator, with the starts already in the system, we'll get you that payroll back the very same day. That's something that we've been doing for quite some time now. So yeah, feel free to take advantage of that. By using if you're a payroll customer, you're going to get the Showbiz time cards for free. Use this system because you'll get your edit backs much faster. Because of course, we all know payroll is very timely and we need to get that payroll done quickly. All right, so I'm going to go a couple advanced topics really quickly here. Answer your questions, and I'll go into SAG because we're all about time for SAG. So, all right, let me go into a couple of things that you need to know. Again, there's that find function I told you about. Find and get. Say, for example, I want to find a week ending. Get. Those are all the time cards for that particular week ending. Say, for example, I have more than one show. I might want to add the particular show. Here, I'll go this way. It's easier to see it. Picture project. I want to see the surfer, which is one of my shows. Because you can have as many shows as you want. In fact, I have some customers that have more than 100 shows in their database, and you can do that. Now, after a point, you may not be doing active payroll on 100 shows, and that's okay. We can help you archive the time cards. It's another thing I want to show you too. So once we've done that, we've got all the time cards. We've got it where we're happy with. Let me show you before we do the backup of time cards. Remember how we talked about duplicating time cards? Another huge thing in Showbiz time cards. Say, for example, I don't want to refill out a time card every week. You don't have to. What you do instead is you go to and you want to find your week ending. So I want to find, again, that week ending. Remember, I do have more than 1 week, so I'll say it's the Adventures of Laura show. All right, so those are my time cards a week. It could easily have been 10 or 300 time cards. It doesn't matter. It will find that group. And now, let me show you one thing about time cards that's very handy. If I have a time card and I want to duplicate the time card, on the very top, this is new. Brand new time card, blank, start fresh. This is duplicate card. This is duplicate info only. Duplicate card is exactly the same, except you notice how things disappear. It'll wipe certain things out, like the date and the work zone and the work location, because we figure you might be changing that. But even carry forward the Magic Pay information, whatever you chose for your MPVs. This is more used for people who are not changing hours a lot, okay? So if this does happen and the hours do change, don't use this function, use the other one, which is duplicate info only. Info only, it keeps all the important information about the person, even your splitting, but then you go in, you enter new hours, you check for meal penalties, and then you go do your Magic Pay. So the reason why we do this is, and let me go back and I'll eliminate these two new time cards here. There's one there and that one there. Okay, so now back to what I had before. By the way, it can do it. I just omitted a couple of time cards. You can do that as well if you don't want them to duplicate in the next week. And this is where it's handy. If you go to something called reports, go to reports, go to mass time card duplication. You can come in here and you can mass duplicate all of these. Instead of doing what I just did, one time card at a time, you can do multiple. So you just go ahead here and you can say, I want to check this time card or this time card, or I just come up to the top and say, select all check boxes. You can uncheck somebody too as well if you want to. You can even find and get in this as well. So you find the weekend and get it here. So you can do it here if you want to. That's the nice thing about our find and get, by the way. When you move around the program, you are still in that set of time cards. Think of it as a batch. You have a big, huge batch of time cards, and you separate it off. I have a bunch of time cards that are over, sitting off to the side, right? Obviously it's 9 minus 44. They're obviously over this other batch. I have a batch in front of me which is 9 time cards. Okay, so now that I'm looking at that, I want to duplicate all these time cards, and it's going to ask me duplicate them all. Which would you prefer to do? Info only is the suggested. And we usually suggest you do that, unless, of course, you do want the exact because it isn't changing. And just so you know, exact is generally good for game shows, or maybe people in the office are pretty much working the same hours every week. That's fine. Otherwise, use info only because it's a better way of doing it. What it does is it goes through the process and it asks you a couple of questions to make the new time cards. First of all, what's my new week ending? So I might want to say, you know what? I'll say this is the next week, which is the 22nd. So this is 4/22, and you don't have to put the year in. If you do want to put the year in, type in the full year, okay? Usually you don't have to do that unless you're like forcing the year, like we're at the end of the year. Otherwise, I just say don't use that, just leave it alone. And here, I'll click away from this. Oh, I guess it's like holding on to it. All right, so I can change the name. Maybe I don't want Adventures of Laura, maybe it's a new show. Otherwise, leave it alone. But sometimes people like this, maybe we're moving into season 2, and you can have every time card say that instead if you want to. My company, again, that's your company. You can change it to another company if necessary. Leave it alone if you're the same company and the same location. Now it's going to ask you, what is the default episode that you want? You can blank it if you don't want it. I want it to be now, it's episode 110, we'll say, right? Okay, and then what do we want this? This is the splitter I showed you. Now I can do that too. 110, yes. And now every one of these time cards got duplicated just like that. So watch. Now when I go into the time card now, I'm looking at basically a blank set of time cards, so I can come in here. I'll enter hours, 8, 13, 14, 20, 21, standard 12-hour day. I'm going to copy the hours. Okay, oops, just one day. There we go, got all the day. Now, I'm happy with this. I want to copy the hours. We'll say it's a union person, so maybe we do need to do the IATSE meal penalties, and yes, we need to pay them. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the pay meal penalties. Oh, I had night premium turned on probably. Let's see. Yep, it's on. Just so you know, there is a function in the program. Usually, you can do, if you do run into the situation, I can help you with that. You can turn it on and off. Normally, when people are night premium, they usually are expected to go to lunch before 6 hours, and you usually don't call grace on them. You can technically. We have a function in the program that actually suppresses it, because a lot of our customers wanted that. So now I'm going to click on that. There we go. Now I've got my meal penalties paying out. Do I have everything the way I want it? Yes, I do, because I have the information in about the person. including a cell phone allowance. Done. I just did another time card based on my previous time card like that. Now, here's another nice thing. On the very top, I move to the next time card. Another person who's in production. By the way, if you want to actually put people in a particular order, you can order by department here by just clicking on this, right? It'll put them in department order. So that's the cool thing. I'll go back down to this person here, and I'll say they're the same hours, paste the hours. There's my hours. Do I have meal penalties to pay? Yes, I have to pay the meal penalty, so fair enough. I'll come in here and I say this is IATSE Studio. Mind you, if I'd already chosen that, it would be there already. There's that. Click on that. Done. See the beauty of Showbiz Timecards when you're duplicating forward every week? It's so much easier to deal with because you already have the time cards in the system. One more thing I want to show you is on the actually two more things. One more thing on the bottom here is there's this information. It's called optional to track. You don't have to enter it. It's basically for our power users. They're going to enter the information if they need it. And it's basically address information, stuff like that. It is not to be used in lieu of start paperwork, and it's for tracking only, all right? Down here for hot costing, this is in the advanced webinar, but if you do want to go into that a little bit, you can watch that webinar. Essentially, you put the pay hours in here on every time card so that it moves forward. Again, watch that advanced webinar for more details about that. The last thing I want to show you is, remember all this stuff we've been doing for the last hour and a half? Well, I don't want to lose these time cards. Maybe something happens to this computer. Maybe it crashes. You know, heaven forbid something bad happens to the computer. Well, here's the cool thing. I would back up my time cards. Now, every Monday, the program prompts you, would you like to back up your time cards? You say yes. Always say yes. But I want to do it manually. You need to say export time cards, right? Or back up my time cards is even better. Watch. Back up my time cards. It's going to back up everything. It's going to ask me where I'd like to back it up. I'd like to back it up. I have a flash drive here. Okay, open, and then I hit save. Okay, now what it's doing is it's basically backing up. It doesn't matter if it's 53 time cards or 10,000 or 20,000, which some of you do have. In your time card programs, it just goes through, it backs it up. It takes about a minute or less, depending on how many time cards you have. It also depends on the speed of your computer, too. But yeah, what it's doing now, essentially is, if something bad happens, there we are, we're done in about 15 seconds, right? If something bad happens to this computer, heaven forbid, the computer crashes, the hard drive crashes, I can't get to the data instantly, I backed it up to an external flash drive. You can back it up to an external hard drive. You can even back it up and email it to yourself, although if you email it to yourself, you might have to zip it up because the files do get kind of big after a while. I would suggest the flash drive because it's the most efficient method. You don't even need to get I don't even think you even get anything less than an 8 gig now. But yeah, 8 gig is fine. Most of the files that we use are about, even when they're really large, they're no more than 250 megabytes, and you can just keep overwriting the old file. What's nice about this is, it's basically the old concept of, of entering data into any system. If it's not in two places, it doesn't exist. Because what happens is, if this hard drive crashed, I couldn't get to it, somebody stole the computer, whatever it is, this computer's gone, I could get you on a new computer, and I can import your last backup. So if you back up every night, I can do that. If you only do it on Mondays, which we prompt you once a week, okay, at least I've got that. But if you don't back up at all, then how can I help you import your data? So that's the key. Make sure you back up your data. I do it every night before I leave, scripts, back it up to an external flash drive. You can get flash drives anywhere nowadays. And you can back other things up to it as well. So keep that flash drive. And then, you know what? Don't keep it plugged in the computer. Throw it in the fireproof safe. Or, if it's okay if you're doing it yourself, you can probably throw it in, your backpack or purse or something like that to have it so that it's somewhere else. All right? So that's key. That's critical, making sure you back up all this important data. Now, of course, there's a lot of other things. Let me see if there's any questions before I move into SAG. I'm sure there might be. Oh, no, there's none. All right, well, fair enough. Of course, if you do have questions along the way, feel free to contact us and stuff like that. But I'm going to move over to SAG real quick, answer your questions, and show you about SAG. The nice thing is even though we're starting a little bit late on SAG, the nice thing about SAG is now that you understand crew, you understand SAG. The only major difference is that this is obviously made particularly for SAG and AFTRA Exhibit A. And AFTRA Exhibit A is basically, it's the same contract. It's the AFTRA Exhibit A contracts that are mirroring the SAG contracts. It does not do standard front of the book AFTRA. Often we find people are better off using the crew cards to enter those because those are standard daily and or weekly rates. This is designed particularly for SAG and AFTRA Exhibit A. In fact, here's a nice little thing for you to note. SAG actually uses it to audit you worldwide. They have been using Showbiz SAG cards for about 10 years, and even more recently now, they're actually using it worldwide now to audit you. In fact, the auditors that are over at SAG have told us that the shows that have used Showbiz time cards barely have any audits at all. It's maybe because of a simple mistake that happened. And they said that's even rare. He says the shows that use Showbiz time cards, their audits are almost nil, if very small. The people that don't, it depends on how good the person doing the payroll was, of course. You know, we're human beings and we make mistakes, and that's the idea about Showbiz time cards, is to make you more efficient. It's not to take your job away. It's to make you more efficient and make you faster so you don't make those simple little 10-key mistakes when you're typing something in, or you know, you're trying to calculate a time card with a 10-key calculator and you make a mistake. You know, there's only so much time in a day, especially with all the crazy things you have to do with splitting and stuff. So that's why they adopted it too, because they found it helped them when they were doing their audits. So again, just like in the beginning, remember we had the union, non-union. You just choose which one, SAG or AFTRA Exhibit A. And now, what's different about SAG cards? Not a lot. The zoom is the same. So if you want to do the zooming in, zooming out, you can do that too. There's that option too up top that you can go to make the preference for it as well. But basically, what's the difference between the program? Well, the menu up top is the same. There's really no difference there. There's a couple of options here that are a little bit different here in the fact that this is the information about the person. So the layout's slightly different, not too terribly different, but it's the information about the person, their episode, stuff like that. The overtime schedule you don't have to fill out. I'll show you what's different about that in just a second here. What is majorly different is how you enter the time cards. Obviously with SAG you have a work status. And see, if you hover over like that for a second, it will tell you all the different types of work statuses if you forget. So yeah, click over what you want, choose what you want, work as the standard one obviously. And you choose and you put in the standard types that you want and you click on the buttons. All right, so now what's different also is entering the in and out times. The in and out times are different. There's makeup in, there's work time, there's makeup out, there's lunch time, there's arrival time, there's location if you're traveling them. Put those times in. This is going to look like your Exhibit G. You're going to be handed the Exhibit G that the ADs have filled out and have had the actors sign. And they're usually per day, and you can even go and enter it per day if you want to, but the daily entry is up top here. Or if you're just looking at a week's worth of Exhibit Gs, you'll probably just go through and just enter them as you get them. So you enter their times, and what the program is doing, what's different too, is this is designed, obviously, for SAG-AFTRA. You can see that there's differences in their overtime, like there's travel time, there's regular overtime, there's double time. Travel time is calculated at time and a half, not at double time. So in other words, if they get if they're being traveled, they get a bump back to a standard time and a half if they were at double time. So there's things like that in the program. So make sure you fill it out appropriately. Now, the meal penalties are here. It's automatically turned on. It's turned on per the SAG rules. Okay. Grace can be called if necessary to put those things in there. But what else is different is, and I'll show you this. We break things by pensionable and non-pensionable. Okay. Another thing too is, this is a little more automated because we're dealing basically with one guild here, especially since SAG-AFTRA is now the same guild. You click on this button over here. Here's all my contracts. Essentially, I have studio television, I have a television, studio, distant, 3-day player, B, C, F, the various different types of stunt, airplanes and stuff like that, airplane pilots, dancers, stunt coordinators, whatever. We have low budget, we have theatrical. You choose what is appropriate for you, for your contract. So we'll say this is we'll say this person is a B or C studio. Click on that. For television, it was not just an overnight. This is studio, so it's 44 hours. The other is 48. Again, those of you who know SAG will know this program, understand that. Essentially, you fill out the hours, you hit Magic Pay, and there's your information right there. It's breaking out all the various different types. 6 days, 7 days, all that kind of stuff like that. It's even capping. It's even breaking things down. If you put in stunt adjustments, those will make adjustments appropriate based on the contract. You can put miles. You can put in wardrobe if they bring something in. There's all kinds of nice things you can do with the program. Now, another thing that's also handy too is if you actually want to put in, notice how that there's no account numbers. A lot of times for SAG, that might be a little bit different from the crew, is you may want to have a different set of accounts for their straight time. In other words, maybe you might want a 1,000 account. Their overtime might be 1,001. And their double time may be 1,002. You know, various things. Their travel time might be a different account number. That's fine. Put whatever accounts you want in there so that the various things fill out. And then you can copy this and paste it into another person's time card. And by the way, this copy and the copies I showed you in crew cards do not go away when you shut down the program nor the computer. They're held in the program itself. There's little fields that we hold it into, and it will hold forevermore until you make a new copy. So it's different than the standard. A lot of people, you know, when they do the Control-C and Control-P for copy and paste, and then there's it's Control-V, sorry. Copy and paste. There's also the, when you right-click and copy and right-click and paste, these are different. These are different kind of copies. These are copies in the program, and they hold forevermore. So feel free to copy this. It will not mix with anything else in the program. So now that I go in here, now when I go back to hit Magic Pay, it's updating it. See how it updated the various different kinds of numbers? So yes, whatever you tell the program to do, it will put in appropriately. You put more in. Obviously, I didn't put my travel and my weekly overtime. Just put those down. Those accounts are down in there. Put those in there, and you'll get those too. All right? Another thing to note about the SAG cards that's a little bit different too is, say, for example, this person is a contract player. I basically chose a weekly contract. We'll say that's the amount of money. All right? Now, by the way, some people say, what's the difference between the scale rate and negotiated? Well, if you are not doing the final cast list, don't worry about it. Put whatever is appropriate. If it's SAG scale, put in SAG scale. If they have a negotiated amount, put that in. You can put in both. Just be aware that if you put negotiated that's higher than the scale rate, it will override it and go to the negotiated rate instead. But if you put in both and you do want to do the final cast list, there are things called time and salary units that will calculate. I'll show you that in just a moment. But yes, essentially what it's going to do is it's going to calculate for residuals later on. That's what essentially the final cast list is for. So that's why to do that. If you're not doing overscale, don't worry about it. Just put in the scale rate. If you're doing overscale, put that in. If you want to put in both, again, if you are doing the final cast list, do them both and you'll get it right. Otherwise, just put in what's appropriate for you. In this case, I'm going to say, no, this person is actually a Schedule F. No overtime. Notice how it changes my overtime schedule? That's automatic in the SAG cards program. It will automatically pick the contract rules. All the contract rules are loaded up in the background so that it pays appropriately, and including the overtime. So you don't have to choose that. That's what's different. All right, so now what I do is I come down and use this thing called the contract tracker. The contract tracker is very handy. What it's doing, just so you know, we'll say they're being paid $10,000, and you just tell what is the $10,000 for. Days in contract. It's a 7-day contract. So obviously we're going to work like 5 days this week and 2 days next week because this is an episodic. Okay? You'll say number is days in the week is 5, and you click on this Get Weekly Rate. What this essentially is doing is, and you can see, it's taking the 10,000, dividing it by 7, and prorating it by 5. Those of you who have been doing SAG for a long time by hand know that's exactly how you calculate if you're going to pay in 2 separate time cards. Because normally what will happen is I'll go through, say this person works, of course I've got too many days in the year, but I can always remove them too, by the way, by taking clear hours. But nevertheless, if they work the 5 days, they'll be paid that 71 once I click over. See how I pasted it in here? So it automatically calculates it and pastes it over here. It's obviously above scale. Again, this is the scale rate person anyways. This is a contracted player. So anybody who's a contracted player, put that in there. Maybe it was supposed to be, it's 5 days in the contract. That's fine. Update it. See how it pays. It's $10,000. I just wanted you to see because it was 7. Because why we do that is because obviously this week, if they work all 5 days, it'll pay that amount out. And then the remainder, when you make this time card, you're going to duplicate the time card, it's going to want to create another time card with these rules in there, and then you're going to pay the other 2 days out for a total of $10,000. What you will essentially do is you'll tell your payroll company, please combine these per episodic agreement, and then they'll pay out the $10,000. So it's very handy. In fact, if they don't pay out the entire contract, you have this thing called left to pay. It's a very handy little feature. Again, because of the time constraints here, just know that it's there. Feel free to call me. Anybody in my team will walk you through this little process and how to do time cards episodically, because you're going to pay them in 2 different episodes. Now, if you're for a feature, you can do that too, and it'll break it down. We even have this little thing that it controls the contract, tells you how much it is. You can even print it out, and you can print out, it'll tell you how many weeks, how much they're being paid. So if somebody, like maybe their representation calls you and say, hey, what did you pay them? What did you pay them? You can even track that too. So it's a little function that's built in the program. It's really, really nice. All right, so there's a whole lot of things in the SAG Cards program, of course. Things like, we have free days. If you have a Schedule B person, you can go ahead and call out your free days. That essentially what it does is it suppresses their time and a half for that day as a Schedule B contract. There's all kinds of fun rules in here. The main thing is play with the program, make sure you choose the appropriate schedule, and it's going to get it, of course, with any program, make sure you enter the information right, but it will calculate the time cards correctly for you. Again, the same thing with the find and get and all the other things that are in there. You can do that. You can find by episode if you're putting a production number in there. You can go in here and find by, again, this card list gives you different things like this growth pay and fringes and stuff like that. I didn't show you, but both programs have all kinds of reports. You can always ask us about the reports that are in the program to help you out. But nevertheless, scripts, back up my time cards, exporting time cards to give it to your payroll coordinator. In fact, let me show you that one. I want to show you if you're doing payroll media services and or you're just concerned about you want to encrypt your time cards. Let me do it here just so you know what it looks like. So let's first of all, we'll go to worksheet list. If you want to do all your time cards, you probably don't want to do that. You want to say, well, I want to find a week ending. Lots of week ending here. Let's find that week ending and hit get. 2 time cards, but that's okay. That's the 2 time cards I want to send over to my payroll person. Make sure you hit Magic Pay and stuff like that. Make sure they're done. But now all you need to do is just go to scripts. You want to say export and encrypt time cards. Okay, and you put down your case-sensitive password. Now, the case-sensitive password, use the same one every time. Don't be too obvious, but you can put something like Roger 12345, whatever. Again, something you always remember and use the same one every time. Okay, click OK. Reminder to save as FileMaker Pro. This is the SAG cards will be updated. The crew cards automatically offers an auto function in there, which is new. It's kind of handy. But just say, if you do have to do this manually, I want to save as FileMaker Pro, which I told it to do. Give it a name. It's my payroll, my SAG, or you can say my SAG payroll, and the week ending, right, or whatever you want to call it. And then point it to the desktop, hit save, and now you have your SAG, and all you need to do is go take that file on your desktop, throw it as an attachment to your payroll coordinator. These backup files will be these export files will be much smaller, so you won't have any problems exporting them. Backup files are much larger because they have everything in them. But yes, these files will be fine. Attach it, send it to your coordinator at Media Services, and then we can get on working on getting your payroll done as soon as possible. All right? So that's how that process works too. All right, so I've gone over a lot of things today. Let me see if there's any questions that you might have. Just a couple of things here. All right, so new media contract. Now, we don't have new media in the program per se. We've had some people use the program correctly by talking to the person at SAG and says, you know what, this is the same as a weekly or a weekly and or one of the other type of contracts that are in there. But yes, we do not have the commercial. We do not have some of the newer contracts in there. We're considering adding it actually. Some people have been fine with their new media, so I guess basically the thing would be to call us and see if we've got the appropriate contract for you. Otherwise, some people have actually been going and using new media with our Showbiz crew cards because it's just a standard daily and or weekly. And again, it's easier to do in the crew cards because there's more flexibility there. Whereas this card, the SAG card program is particularly for after Exhibit A. So the reason I say that is because some of the new media is complying with the after Exhibit A or the SAG contract. So again, review your contract. We can even help you take a look at it, but whoever's doing your payroll could tell you appropriately if it does match or not. All right. Okay, that was all the questions. All right, well, excellent. All right, so I'm trying to think of, we got a couple more minutes here. So I want to make sure there's a lot of things we went over. And again, I stress this again, this is an introduction to the program. This program is being recorded right now. It'll be on our website. You can feel free to go to our website and watch previous tutorials. So if I go right back to here, and I go back to support, or tutorials here, you can watch the tutorials here. These are individual tutorials, by the way, down below that you can watch. I would tend to want to go with the ones on the top because we're redoing some of the ones on the bottom. The ones you want to watch are these ones on the top because I am going over the most recent versions of the program, and I also have a separate one if you want to see how to deal with payroll, how we do payroll, and it's the same day. You can watch that one again because, of course, that is exclusive to media services itself because we import it into our payroll system. The other payroll companies do not offer that same importing into Showbiz Timecards and giving you the edit the same day. They have to hand enter it to do that, of course, if they want to offer that. So yes, watch these tutorials here. The new one from today will be up there later today. But watch this tutorials. There's an advanced one too, which we won't do until I think June is our next one, perhaps. But you can watch that now if you want to go ahead and skip ahead and watch it. That basically goes over how to enter time cards daily, generate a daily hot cost, and of course hot cost is another fancy way of saying daily labor totals, and then generate it and conceal it into various types of reports. Even one reporter, which we call it, it's actually called the reporter, which will actually add all the various episodes together. Feel free to watch that if you do need to do hot costing. But yes, if you watch these tutorials if you want to, and feel free to contact us by going to our support page and call us because sometimes I see people they try to do it themselves, and that's great. Learn as much as you can as possible. Try to figure it out yourself if you can. But if you find that you're it's just Roger told me something in that webinar and I can't quite remember what it was, feel free to call me because a lot of those calls are real quick calls. A 5-minute, 10-minute call will get you up and running and you're happy and you're good. And this is the nice thing about Showbiz Timecards. Again, we'll give it to you for free if you're a media services payroll customer, but if you buy it, the support comes for free, which is a rarity nowadays because most companies charge you for the program and for the support. In fact, some people ask why sometimes is the program a little more expensive. Well, that's because it is specifically designed for this industry, but again, it's also including all your support as well, which is free with the program because it becomes part of it, all right? All right, so feel free to use any of these resources that we have. In fact, again, I can connect to your computer just like you're looking at my computer right now. I can do the same thing with you. Connect to your computer, show you how to use the program, and you're up and running. All right, one last question. Any last questions at all? Oh, there's one here. Somebody said they'd like to call me later. That's fine. Feel free to call me later. Myself or my team will be happy to help you out with any questions you might have. And I think that's all the questions we have. All right, excellent. Well, Again, I appreciate everybody who attended today. I'm sure you'll have lots of questions that maybe weren't answered during the presentation. Feel free to contact me. Here's my information here. Here's my email address. If you're interested in any of our services whatsoever, please feel free to contact Stephen Fishman. He can help you out with that. Otherwise, thank you for coming today, and we appreciate your time. And if you missed any portion of this program, watch the webinar that we'll post up there later today, or feel free to join us next month because our webinars are all free. You can join us again next month to watch and or ask questions live with the person. All right, thank you very much.